Hi, I'm Keith Primeau, and you're watching Nasty Knuckles.
You're listening to Nasty Knuckles, the Hockey Outlaws podcast, with your hosts, Derek Nasty Settlemyre and former Philadelphia Flyer enforcer Riley Cote, as they go behind the scenes with your favorite NHL players. Time to face off.
All right, welcome back. What's happening, Nasty?
What's up, Rigoralia?
Looking fresh today.
Oh, you too, man. Freaking early morning for you.
Oh, yeah.
4 a.m. before you do this guy gets out of the car yawning baller. I'm like, what's going on? Well, I just drove an hour and 15.
I've been up since 4. And, just
A
getting
little
after it
yogs. Did a little yogs.
Well, teaching yoga.
I went there and fucking, what,
You weren't there.
locked the door on me.
For 4.5 years straight, haven't seen you there.
I'm going to do it. I
Big
told you I'll do
Earns
it.
flies in.
Big Earn did do it.
Hamilton
Did
one
Tyler
day.
do it with him?
No, he didn't.
He didn't do it.
But still waiting on you.
Yeah, I got to
Sooner
do
or
it.
later.
I do. I really actually want to. I'm not kidding. I really do want to do it.
Gonna manage the stressors.
No stress.
No stress.
Stress coming out of my eyeballs,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know it. I'm not going to get into that, though.
No.
Good weekend, though?
Strong
You
weekend.
have a drum circ?
This weekend.
Well, you got one coming
this
up.
weekend,
I know.
yeah.
I know. I'm sorry I can't make
You're not
that
going to
one.
make that one either, I guess.
Well, I can't. Elvis has a thing with his team. Rebels' last home
All
game,
right.
and the boys
Fair
are
enough.
going on
Next
the
one.
ice. So, last week, emergency podcast. So funny, but
Sky's falling.
The sky's falling, but obviously Torts is relieved of his duties. Bradshaw, interim coach. Couple people we talked to said they basically felt like a weight was lifted off their shoulder, and
Well, looks
and,
like
and
it.
you could listen. It's 3 games, but you definitely could see the looseness of how the guys played and more relaxed.
Totally.
Michkov himself, just him alone, what do you have, 7 points in 3 games or something like that, baller. It was actually kind of fun to watch, and it was fun to, when they showed the bench, guys smiling.
yeah.
I know it's a lot more than that, for 82 game season, but it was almost refreshing just to watch the guys look happy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to totally, I'm not trying to shit on Torch, but you could tell this was weighing on them and him, obviously on him.
Totally.
But the players as well. So, they run 3 in a row off. People probably pissed off. What the fuck?
I know, right? Like,
should have kept him and
lose
let
more
him leave.
games.
Lose more games. But we'll see what happens with their draft position. But it was nice to see the guys having some fun and talking to a few of the guys that we did. Saying like just feel better, just happy to go to the rink and whatever.
Yeah.
So
Well, it certainly appears that way.
right.
And I guess to what you're saying, it gets the guys into a little bit of a conundrum because all of a sudden they're feeling better, playing a little better, and then all the fans are just looking at it like, why you guys winning? What's going on here? What are we trying to do here? But it's a tough one in pro sports when you're in situations like the Flyers are in right now, right? It's like the guys are still obviously have pride.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
want to show up and do their thing. They're certainly not looking at the standings and just looking to lose. So it's interesting. I think at the end of the day, they can carry something positive into next season.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But hopefully they can squeeze into that lottery there somehow too.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. But like you said, it's nice to see that you could tell they were enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like just playing, and there's a lot more to playing in the National Hockey League than just having fun. You got, but in saying that too, like you said, they worked, they have pride. They were still playing hard for this guy.
Yeah,
for
they were,
Torch.
for
They were
sure.
still giving it everything they had, but
Yep.
you could just see it just didn't look like much fun.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. Move on, see what happens, see if Shawsey sticks around, in the interim here for the next couple of years, or if they, Danny decides to pull a trigger on another coach. That's a talk for maybe another day. I'm sure we're just going to get through the year, obviously, here with only a few games left. So glad to see the boys enjoying themselves, basically.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Get excited for the summer now?
I am, for the spring and summer, the Nasty Knuckles hockey experience, man.
Yeah, we got a few different things going on.
Yes, we do.
A couple different barns.
Yep.
Some practices at Hollydale.
Yep, 4 practices at Hollydale. We got a tournament at Aston for teams. We're trying to, we're going to have mites, squirts, peewee, and bantam if we have enough, which looks like we will. Pretty exciting, man. And then have some extra to add to that if you want to talk about Method a little bit.
Yeah, just I've been fortunate enough to work with Method the last, 6 months or so over at Iceline, and they do a heck of a job. The training facility is top notch, but just the programming that they do. So we're gonna do some combine testing, just get the players some data metrics to kind of just self-reflect on, right? It's not about competing against someone else, but just kind of setting some sort of marker to understand where you're at, and do another combine later in the summer to kind of gauge progress, and then we'll do a fun tournament there as well at Iceline, and then we'll mix in another tournament there at Iceline to kind of complete the package here. So be a lot of fun.
Yes.
And we've kind of split it up. The way we split it up, that you can kind of a la carte pick what you can do, what you can attend to, and we've talked about this before. The part of this experience isn't just like putting hockey teams together and pushing them on the ice. Like, we really want to make this an enjoyable experience and teach not just the on ice but the off ice, and just giving these guys some tools that they can take into their seasons, but beyond the hockey world, is taken into their lives. So
and even for parents as
for parents too.
I know you're gonna have a little session with parents if they want, and that's really cool. It's not just like you said, hey, we're just gonna go put a hockey team together. Like, it's a lot more than that. What we're trying to do here. So
absolutely,
and hopefully it grows every summer.
Yep. So registration links are out there.
Yep.
Check out our links on our Instagram page. There's a few of them there for registration information, and hope to see you guys this summer.
Yep, can't wait, man. We got some other stuff going on this summer. Our good friends, Bare Knuckle Ice Wars.
Oh my gosh, can you believe that's
Dude,
a thing?
This is so awesome. Like, we talked a few weeks ago about the bare knuckle fighting, and our friend David Feldman, he bought in with Charlie Nama, our really good friend who owned Ice Wars, and now they've come together, and I mean, this is going to explode. I don't know if you saw some of the packets. They got Conor McGregor. He's involved. He's going to be at the fights.
He's pumped.
He's jacked, man.
He's more jacked.
It's funny they have him in hockey gear, and he's like getting ready to fight, but. I'm so excited. This has been in the works for a while. I know there's been a couple previous things that Charlie did, and it does an amazing job. But with backing from Bare Knuckle and everyone coming together on this, our friend AJ Galante, Nasty Marasti's involved with they're the Don Kings, finding the fighters, and I mean, this is simply amazing. We'll have to throw those links up for people to check it out, but. Baller could probably throw the link up for the first one here, June 14th, just outside of Detroit, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. It's going to be at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Battle of the Border, U.S. versus Canada. The fights.
And get heated.
It is, and it's you can watch it on the BKFC app, and you can get tickets at bkfciw.com or etix.com. So. I'm excited. I'm actually going to be there doing the skates for the players.
Man.
I'm going to be the official equipment guy.
Gotta have one of those.
And we're trying. I'm trying to locate some leather ear straps because they were having a ton of problems in previous things. So I'm trying to find us some leather ear straps.
That's old
school.
Go
old school.
Oh yeah.
At least they won't rip.
Love it.
So anyway, man, super excited for Charlie and Dave, and we've been wanting to be involved in this for a long time, and it's finally coming together.
Oh yeah, and it's been a long time coming, as you mentioned. Just you're talking to David around just getting some of these fight sanctions through bare knuckle fighting championships,
Right.
and then merging these worlds together, essentially hockey bare knuckle brawling,
Yeah.
and putting them under one hood. This is legendary, and I think the BK Fighting Championships is the fastest growing combat sport on the planet.
It is.
And now you're merging it with hockey fighting, and it's just like next level. So
Yeah, it's
interesting times we're living in, Nast.
I know it is, and it's super exciting. And I know I said this a few weeks ago, but that was one of the most entertaining things I've been to. I know it's brutal and it's combat, but man, you can't hide.
There's nowhere to hide.
I mean, there's nowhere to hide. And in the BK Ice Wars, you have to fight. You can't just hang on and
Nowhere to
wrestle.
hide
Like,
either.
I mean, you're chucking knucks, man.
yeah.
And I wouldn't want to do it, but I sure love watching it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm super excited for Charlie. He's put a lot of time and years into this, so it's awesome.
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
Appreciate Charlie and David for thinking of us, and
Yep.
and happy to support. It's right in line with the brand.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Nast, ready to rock.
Yes.
Episode 197. We got 2 today.
I was gonna say, who's the big guy?
The big dog is Keith Primeau.
We got Preems and Captain's Corner with our boy Mike Richards.
Ready to rock.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Welcome back. I'm Riley Cote.
And I'm Derek Settlemyre, and this week we are so excited and thankful to have this gentleman join us, a former first-round pick, 3rd overall in 1990. What a draft that was, by the way. We can talk about that in a second. This gentleman played 1,037 games in the National Hockey League, with 370 of them with the Philadelphia Flyers, the captain, 13th captain in Flyers history, 2-time All-Star, Olympian, you name it. Big bad Keith Primeau. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man?
How are you, man?
How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm doing well, thanks.
Appreciate you coming by.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've seen it enough times now. Eventually,
here
I was
before?
eventually I was gonna get the invite.
Yeah, man. So what are you up to? Let's start there. What's going on?
Well, I mean, lots of things. I mean, my kids continue to grow, and then they're starting to have families of their own. So my oldest one has 3 kids. So we'd like to dote on our grandkids.
There you go.
And then my wife and I bought in Florida 2 years ago, and so we started the Snowbirds. We're just finishing our 2nd season down there. And then on a professional business side, I was involved with a business that I bought into out of Montreal about 14 years ago, and I just recently sold that and finished my employment, and so I'm retired for a 2nd time.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Yeah.
It's got to feel good.
Yeah, it's exciting times for sure.
Dang, retired. That must be nice.
Yeah, I know, right? Hang out in Florida.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I just wanted to mention, I said something about that draft. That draft was amazing. There's 21 teams in the league at that time, and I was telling Riley, I saw something where 9 of those 21 played 1,000 games in NHL, which is pretty damn impressive.
So when you look at the top of that draft, we went Owen Nolan, Peter Nedved, myself, Mike Ricci here to the Flyers, and then Jaromir Jagr was number 5.
Right.
Number 6 was a guy named Scotty Sissons, who was one of the only guys at the top end who didn't play, and then Darian Hatcher. John Slaney. Slanes was high in that
Gregor
draft.
was in that draft too,
Mark
right?
Gregg was in that draft. Brad May, but other notable first rounders: Marty Brodeur, Keith Kachuk. And Walt, Keith probably would have been a guy that he got hurt in college that year, and if it wasn't for that, he'd have been a top 5 guy as well. But I mean, a million stories leading off of that draft, because if people would have known about Jaromir Jagr,
Right.
and whether he could get out from behind the Iron Curtain at the time, he would have been he'd probably been number 1 overall as well.
Right.
But all those guys in their own right had good careers, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. I like to think I had a pretty good career,
Yeah, you did.
And the people in Detroit are still like, can you believe that we took Keith Primeau over Jaromir Jagr? And I mean, it's all good. I mean, I agree. Like, who would take Keith Primeau over Jaromir Jagr? But that was an unbelievable draft.
Yeah, no kidding.
And 10 of those 21 actually played for the Flyers.
Did they really?
Yeah. I counted
that's amazing
through.
stats.
Yeah, amazing.
Because I forgot about. I was like, 9. Then I forgot about Turner Stevenson. Was here as well.
That's unbelievable.
So 10 of the 21 actually did wear a Flyers jersey.
Yeah, a lot of variables in those drafts. When you talk about like the pecking order, and as you mentioned, like,
and it's all a team preference, team need.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know if I'm in management, I don't look at those. To me, I think because you don't know when that player is going to become an everyday regular or become a star for you, I'm going with the most talented guy. I'm picking the best player.
Right.
But everybody has their own philosophy on how they want to draft, and so those things always get skewed. Like I said, Scotty Sissons was 6th overall New York Islanders, great kid, but he really didn't have any business being 6th overall.
Yeah, right.
When you look at the rest of the guys who went in that draft,
they were making a few mistakes back then.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they still make mistakes.
Good point. Yeah, great point. They still make mistakes. That's a good point.
It's almost like that one sticks out like a sore thumb because like everyone else, not even just hit, but like hit home runs with almost.
That's and when you look at the top 10 in that draft, it was crazy. But when you look at the top 21, as you said, so many of those guys played 1,000 games, All-Stars, Stanley Cup champions, international success. So it was a really, really good draft.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. You started off your career in Adirondack.
So 1990, I was a late birthday, so I slipped into the draft the year later. So if I had been eligible the year before, I'd probably still been a first rounder, but it would have been a late first round pick. Mm-hmm. The fact I had a third-year junior allowed me to jump high into the draft. And I had 1 year of junior eligibility left, and we had a really good team in Niagara Falls. And so I went into Detroit as a 19-year-old, and I wanted to go back to junior for my last year. We had a good team. We had a good chance to win the Memorial Cup. And Brian Murray was like, no, you're staying here. You need to skate with the older guys on the bigger ice. In Niagara Falls, we had a small little sheet. You need to get stronger. And so my first year, I played like 58 games. But even saying 58 games, I was fourth line, few minutes a night. And then I go into my second year, and I'm thinking I'm going to get an opportunity to play. And I should have known because I was in Detroit that summer, and I went in to sit with Brian Murray in his office. And the year before, I lived with a family, and my second year, I decided I was going to get an apartment on my own. He's like, "You're getting an apartment?" and I shouldn't. I was 19. I didn't know any different.
Right.
Yeah.
But basically, I should have known. They would basically, without telling me you're going to the minors, you're going to the minors. So I got sent down my second year.
That was your second year, shit.
So after being in Detroit my first year, wanting to go back to junior, now coming into Detroit my second year, wanting to play, I got sent to the minors for 3 months. And he told me, and then on top of that, he told me, it'd be 2-3 weeks. I was down there for 3 months. And although I loved it, I had a great time. Glen Falls, New York's a pretty great place to play in the minors. But I was, now I'm finishing up 2 years and going back to the draft. 2 years, I'm in the minors. Jaromir Jagr's setting up to win the second Stanley Cup.
Stanley Cup. Yeah.
So you can see why the people in Detroit had some animosity.
Right.
And then I with my third year, I was in Detroit. I think I scored 15 goals. In my fourth year, that's when I really started to become a good NHLer. I think I had 31 that year. But I didn't think I was a really good player till I was 24, 25. And that's when I was getting ready to leave Detroit. And that's the biggest reason I sent my boys to college too, is because I'm walking into an NHL locker room and not really mature enough, not ready for the step. And I see the college guys coming in at 23 and the way they carry themselves, and they got their shit together.
Yeah.
And so I wanted that for my boys. I wanted them to have that, the social experience, academic experience, the athletic experience, and after me going to junior, I sent them to college.
Right.
So it was
Interesting.
Did you win a Calder Cup though?
Yeah.
In Adirondack?
He did,
That was cool, right? Like
it was. That was our second year. We had a really good team. We had a lot of guys end up going, making it up to Detroit and helping them win the Stanley Cups that they won towards the late 90s. That was also the year of the strike. So I got called up in New Jersey in February. Got sent back down for a week, basically collect my stuff. Got called back up to Detroit. The strike happens. I got sent back down for the 10 days. So I was still playing. Strike ends. I got called back up for the playoffs. Played the series against Minnesota. We lose that. I got sent back down again for the rest of the playoffs. And that was the year we went 7 games in the finals against St. John's, Newfoundland, the St. John's Leafs.
Yeah.
And nobody won a home game.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nobody went home, and they had a good team too. They had some guys that probably weren't, didn't have the careers of some of the guys on our group, Marty Lapointe and Mike Sillinger, but they had Mike Eastwood and Kent Manderville was on that team. Felix Poppin was the goalie.
Wow.
So we went up to St. John's, and we got to use the Red Wings planes. So we chartered up 2 games up in St. John's, and it's end of May, and we still got heavy winter coats on. That's how cold it is. And we win the first 2 games, and we're like, holy fuck, we're not coming back here. Like, we got to go home. So we go home. We lose the next 2. Now we're 2-2. We got to go back up there for game 5. We go up for game 5. Win again. We're like, well, fuck, we're not coming back up here. We lost game 6. Had to go back up there and win again in game 7.
And you're thinking, someone's got to win a home game here,
It's
right?
unheard of.
It was like every game was. I think we won the last one 3-2, and I was deathly sick. I was like the night before. We had some guys on our team too. They were career minor leaguers, but pretty good players. Got Lonnie Loach, Ken Quinney, Bobby Dallas, who played here, but Bobby was with us at the time, and they're a group of guys those guys who were better, kind of functioning alcoholics.
Yeah.
I've seen a few.
They played better when they were drinking. So throughout the whole playoffs they'd been drinking, and it's for the finals. They're like, okay, we're gonna sober up. We're not gonna drink. They were dog shit. They were dog shit.
That's how it goes, dude. Yeah.
So we go. So it's a night of game 7. I'm sick. I'm laying in bed. It's 2:00 in the morning. I hear the banging the walls and laughing, giggling out in the hallway. I open the door. 2 a.m. They're stumbling in, pissed drunk.
Before game 7.
Oh, wow. They were lights out.
Yeah.
They were
George Street. You gotta get there. You gotta get some. Yeah.
They were so good. I love that story.
Oh,
That
that's
is
awesome.
classic. That's old school hockey right there.
Yeah, it is. That's right.
But before you went pro, I just want to ask you a couple questions about junior. Did you move away when you were 15?
I did.
And you weren't too far from home, right?
No, so I was from the east end of Toronto, a place called Whitby, and I was drafted to Hamilton, which is in the west end. So it was about an hour 15 minute drive.
Okay.
It wasn't bad. So that's a 15-year-old. Then the franchise moved from Hamilton down to Niagara Falls, which is a little bit further. But now I'm second year. But my first year in junior, same thing. I was junior A, junior B card, so I played half the year. Oh. Yeah, and it got to the point where my dad's like, he can play junior B at home. He doesn't.
Right.
I don't need this. I don't need my 15-year-old living on the other end of the city. And they basically committed to me, playing. But same thing. I was playing fourth line back then, old time hockey, line brawls. Like I'm on the ice with guys like Dennis Viel and Paul Louse was on that team.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
Tough
We
guys.
had so. A guy named Don Panko was a Kitchener, Cambridge guy who was tough as nails. But we had a really tough team, and then that team moved down the road to Niagara Falls, and that year we picked up Brad May.
Wow.
The guy Andy Bezo. He played,
600 minutes in the International League. I was going to ask you about it. I have them written down. I wanted to ask you.
So again, Dennis Viel, Paul Louse, Brad May, all were NHL heavyweights.
Right.
The toughest kid on that team was Andy Bezo. Right. He was pound for pound. He was the toughest guy I ever played with. I saw him. He's only about 5'9", and I still know Bezo. Like he's super involved with minor hockey down on East Coast Canada. Super nice guy. But I think he knocked out 9 guys that year.
Wow.
At
5'9".
Yeah. And at 5'9", he might. Yeah, I think he's 5'9".
Yeah.
Maybe 5'10". Not a big guy, but he dropped Drake Barahowski, who was a first rounder my year too. I think he was 10th overall to Toronto.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
He dropped his gloves with Drake, and I was like, this is not a good idea. 1K.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Man. Yeah, I saw that. I saw his first year pro in the International League, 600 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? How are you not in jail?
Yeah.
I know, right?
600 minutes, man.
Yeah.
That's incredible. quickly, like being a 15-year-old, like sometimes you're playing against 20-year-olds. Was that? I mean, you're a big guy, obviously, but when did you hit that growth spurt?
So I went from 5'10" to 6'3". I was always, again, I had a late birthday, so all the guys I played minor hockey with were all, they're starting to, grow beards and facial hair and body hair, and I'm still like, prepubescent.
Yeah.
But the year I went from grade 8 to grade 9, so the summer before I went into high school, I went from 5'10" to 6'3".
Wow.
5'10", 148 pounds to 6'3", 148 pounds. I was rail thin, and that was my biggest challenge, for my first year junior, because I was very slight, and then then I started to build some strength for junior hockey. Then I turned pro, and I was slight for pro. I needed to put on some muscle on my frame as well. But that was. My first year junior, 150 pounds, out on the ice with guys who are,
like Racky.
You know who else
beards,
was on?
You know
who else was on that team? Kirk Tomlinson was another guy on that team.
Really?
Kirk. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was tough. Everybody was tough back then. It seemed like. Junior hockey was
like,
you had to have something in you. Oh, that's wild, man. Yeah, I had my first year when I graduated college in '93. My first job was in Florida. I had Paul Maurice was there, and he was a great guy. But it's funny you brought up Brad May. I think I told the story before. I'll just say it quickly. Jim Pizzatella, who was the trainer with Buffalo, he always stayed at the rink, and I was taking care of the visiting team. I actually hung your bag my first year when Peaches, you only had one guy. Used to carry the equipment guy. So I picked Peaches up. I swear to God, I could have fit you guys in a van. Because the plane was kind of small, too.
It was a small plane.
It was he didn't have a ton of trunks, nothing like it is now. Yeah. It's like a rock show, and now with everything you carry. But anyway, I did hang Preem's bag. I meant to say that. Because he didn't have any help, and I'm like, do you want some help? And I started right on your bag.
Well, the reason he didn't have help was because the strength and conditioning guy would give him like $100 or whatever. Like, do you do it? If you do it, I'll give you $100.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's why he never had any help. He did it on his own because the other guy.
No, he took care of me.
He greased you a 10 spot.
Yeah, 10 spot. I got a couple wings at Hooters in Miami there. Yeah. No, but I did hang Preem's bag. Was the first bag I hung for a visiting team. But what was it? Oh, so anyway. Pizza's down there, Buffalo. I hear some music playing. I go down, and he's actually dancing around to Michael Jackson. I told you that story. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he goes, who do you guys? And he's like known as the fight doctor guy. Like he was always like Don King, as the trainers. You know how all his trainers are all pussies, and we love the fighting. But he was like, who you got down there? I'm like, I don't know. Paul Laws, he's tough. He's been fighting a lot of guys, and we got Brent Severin. And he's like, can Laws take? Can he take Brad May? And I'm like. Yeah, I think so. I don't fucking know. My first year, I knew who Brad May was, but I'm like, yeah. So a little bit later, the boys come in having their coffee. You know what it's like. Guys get around. So he goes, hey, Sudsy, he calls me in there, and he's like, it's Brad May. And I'm like, hey, man, how you doing? Nice to meet you. He goes, heard you said Paul Laws can beat my ass. And I'm like, he goes, did you say it? And I'm like, I did. What are we going to do?
Did you say it?
I said, I did. And he started laughing. He goes, that's cool, man. I'm just messing with you.
Did you say it?
He did. That's what he asked me. He asked me. But anyway, so I wanted to get to Detroit, man. Like, were you like in awe a little bit by these names that are on this team? And as a kid, a 19-year-old?
Again, the draft order was Quebec, Vancouver, Detroit, Philly.
You thought you were going to Van.
I did.
I remember hearing that or reading that.
I did, and I'd had great conversations with Pat Quinn. Loved Pat.
Oh, what a man!
Oh man, he was like salt to the earth. Like just super nice man. And he was the general manager. His assistant general manager was Brian Burke, and Brian Burke. Was pushing for Peter Nedved. Little did I know. I literally thought I was going second to Vancouver right up until they made their pick. Like, and the other guy that was on the board for them was Peter. But I was like, I'm the general manager was like, we're buddies. Like, and they took Peter second, and I was a little deflated. because I'd already started to like mentally prepare myself to going to Vancouver and playing with Trevor Linden and this beautiful city in Western Canada and so they were rebuilding, whereas Detroit, they had a bad year.
Right.
They had lots of veteran players. They had lots of pieces to be successful. And they just, the wheels had fallen off the year before. So I went in there, and I'm a centerman, natural centerman. I'm playing behind Steve Yzerman and Jimmy Carson and Sergei Fedorov. So I'm immediately fourth line center. Any opportunity, and then any opportunities I'm getting, it's on the wing. And it just right from the start, it was a bit of a bad marriage. The only saving grace was the ownership. The Illiches were just like some of the finest. I always tell people I played for the two best owners in all professional sports,
right?
Not just hockey. The Illiches in Detroit and Mr. Snyder in Philadelphia, because Mr. Snyder was the same way. Like at the end of my career, when I finished playing because of concussions, he would call me every year and ask me to go for lunch just to check and see
awesome.
how.
That's so
Like nobody knew that. Like
right.
And he didn't have to do that. Like a phone call would have sufficed. But he was like, no, we're going for lunch.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's just the type of person he was. Yeah. But anyways, so in Detroit, there was challenges there, and then when I actually started to become a good player, I'd score 2 goals, and the fans want to know why I didn't get in a fight.
Yeah, right.
And then if I got in a fight, they want to know why I didn't score 2 goals. It was one of those things. I could never do enough, and it started to wear on me mentally. Like I started to hate the game, and I was 24 years old, and the only thing that kept me from actually packing it in was my parents telling me that if you ever, like, your bed is always here. You're always welcome to come home. And I was like, okay, no, I gotta stick it out. I gotta. Yeah. There's more here, and so the decision for me to ask to be traded from there was the timing was probably tough because they went on to win back-to-back Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
But for me, I also knew that I had the opportunity now to kind of chase that goal and dream myself and maybe have an impact. So it's still the best decision I made for myself personally.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, you go in there, you're young, and you were saying, you hadn't probably fully developed physically because you were 19 years old. Did you feel like, did you feel any pressure, not just the playing part, but like to play a physical game? Did you feel like that pressure? Well, I'm a big guy, I got to play that way, even though you had Probe or Coach, or you had all these guys. I mean, but did that weigh on your mind a little bit?
Listen, I played in an era when it was still St. Louis Arena, Chicago Stadium, the Garden in Boston, Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, Montreal Forum. I played in all the old buildings.
Yeah, so
and
cool.
It's just a different. It was just a different era. It was just a different time. So if I was going to play the way I knew, the way I had to play in order to be successful, there was a chance I was going to get in a fight.
Right.
And my early years, I got in 9-10 fights a season. You know, later in my career, I didn't have to do it as much. The only saving grace when I was in Detroit was that I did have guys like Bob Probert and Joey Kosher and even Randy McKay.
Right. Yeah,
I was third or fourth on the list.
Yeah.
You know, so you're starting at the top. By the time they get to me, the game's almost over, right? So that give me a little bit of,
comfort.
Yeah, because
You're not number one.
I'm not number one.
Yeah.
I'm not having to fight Stu Grimson on the Chicago Blackhawks
Exactly.
because that's Proby's job.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I always say that, like the year in which I played, and then I played long enough to start to catch the new era. Those kids just don't have. They started playing in junior buildings that had 10,000 people. It just was different. It's a different world.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so true.
Do you remember your first scrap?
Yeah, I do actually, because Brian Murray was kind of giving me a little bit of shit because I hadn't. Like, you're a big guy, you need to be more involved. And I'm like, he's basically calling me out. Just to me personally, it wasn't in the locker room in front of the guys or anything. But and so we were in Calgary, and I went at Jim Kite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Gary Roberts and Joe Nieuwendyk are on the other bench, and I both those they're both Whitby guys too. And when they told me after when they saw me go after Jim, they were like, "Oh no, don't do that. That's the wrong guy." Thank God I was at the back of the net, and we threw like one punch, and then I stepped on the mesh, the netting, and I fell, and so it wasn't really. A true first fight, but I got my
5 minutes.
Exactly.
Your fight card's unbelievable. I don't know if people realize, man, and you're a good hockey player too. That's the thing. Like, play such a physical style, score goals, and you're fucking dropping the mitts. It's to me, you're a perfect flyer, especially in that time. Like I'm not saying Broad Street Blues. I just mean big physical skate. Finish your checks and go to the fucking net. Score goals, man.
Yeah, and I think that's why this was my best stop.
Yeah,
Philadelphia was my best stop because it was where I felt most at home. People are like, "Oh, be careful what you wish for going to Philadelphia." It's not a. Right. Listen, we had our tribulations. First I got traded for a really popular player.
Right.
Second, the whole thing with Billy Barber and that year. But I knew I was home when it was my first weekend in Philly, and we had lost an afternoon game, and my wife and I went over to the librry in Voorhees for something after the game. It's dark, it's a good spot, kind of hide out, and the guy across the way keeps looking at me, and I kept telling my wife, I'm like, the guy keeps looking. Yeah, and so eventually he's leaving, he comes over and he goes, "Keith," he goes, "I know you guys lost today, but I just want to let you know we appreciate the effort." And I was like, "This is it.
Yeah,
this is where I'm meant to be." Because again, I could score, I could hit, I could fight. I wasn't the best scorer, wasn't the best hitter, wasn't the best fighter. But one thing I could always control was how hard I worked and how I played. And that's all I wanted to be appreciated for. Right. And the people here recognize that.
Yeah.
Well, I think when your name's said, I think people look at you as a flyer. I mean, I know you played Detroit, and
100%. People ask me, what are you? And I'm like, I'm a Philadelphia Flyer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Would you be able to welcome like Philly's energy and culture early on in your career? I mean, it's probably a little bit of a spacious question. Just the physical maturity, finding yourself, and then you kind of find yourself.
It's actually a really good question because I don't know if I could have or would have. It may have been a similar situation to one I had in Detroit.
Right.
The fans may have got frustrated by the fact that here's a third overall pick and he can't even stay on his feet, right? I was awkward. I was 6'5", not 200 pounds, trying to find my way. So, because with the draft, the Flyers picked 4th with reach, and I thought I was actually going to end up falling to 4 after I didn't go to Vancouver, and I thought, Broad Street Bullies, right. Philadelphia Flyers, that's my style thing. But it may not have worked out the same way if it was at the start of my career as it did at the end of my career.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And would you say it was mostly like a physical maturity thing that really kind of slowed you down early parts?
Yeah. It was physical maturity. Yeah. Because I looked physically mature. Like you're 6'5", your shoulder pads. You look like a big body. Like you should be able to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
But underneath it was I wasn't. I was slight, and I wasn't near strong enough or ready. For the grind and the challenge of playing against men. So yeah.
Well, yeah. You like you said, in Detroit there was at least you were obviously yeah. But I know you probably get asked this so many times, but just touch on like you got the Tilly with Probert in practice, which and you had a famous one here with Big Mac. In camp I remember I was standing right there. Right behind the net during training camp with that one. But the Probert thing, I think I read where you had said it was like guys are kind of like you were fucking riding you a little bit. You just said, "Fuck this, I've had enough."
It was. I always took the game very serious. For me, it was very much a business. And that's the way I carried. I carried myself and the way I approached things, and that meant even in practice. But the Mac and the Proby things were two different scenarios. The one in Detroit was as I was trying to find my way.
Right.
And we'd played a neutral site game against Minnesota. Sorry. And I was playing on a line with Stevie Y. I was like playing on the wing, and I'd set up 2 goals, and neutral site, whatever happened, and I got credit for neither. And I'm literally trying to keep a spot in the lineup, become a everyday NHLer, and so I had said something to somebody about can you try and get those the assists on the game sheet maybe even after the game.
Shit, guys now are telling the PR guy.
Intermission. And it wasn't, and I still don't see anything wrong with it.
I don't either.
You know what I mean? Like if you earn something,
Yeah.
And so the next day in practice, we're back at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, and Sean Burr had Al Sabatka, the Zamboni driver with the octopus, announce over the PA system, add an assist to number 55, Keith Primeau. And the guys are laughing, and I lost my shit. And so I started firing pucks at Sean Burr and Steve Chason, and a Chaser must have come back towards me, and now Probeek steps in because I'm bigger than Chase, so he's kind of defending his teammate or whatever, and it just happened. I just threw my gloves off, and we had a little tussle.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
Wow. Like there's more meat.
You want those points bad? You got to fight Probe for them.
There's more meat on the bone there than people realize.
Yeah, sure.
I don't really ever tell that story much. This might be the first time ever on a podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and all 3 of the guys involved in that incident are no longer with us, so they can't even defend their Sean Burr, Steve Chason, and Bob Probert.
Oh yeah, right.
All gone.
Poor Beast too. Brad was on.
And he was that's what I said. And they've all been gone for a while now.
Yeah.
So that 93, 94 team that I played on, almost 10 years ago, 4 of them were already gone. 4 of them were gone. It's terrible. It's crazy. Yeah,
it is crazy. Yeah. I just remember obviously seeing that and thinking, wow, but that happens in practice. You've seen it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've all seen it.
For different reasons. Yeah.
If you're, and to me, it was always you practice the way you want to play, and
100%.
And it's the only way I knew how to do it.
I wanted to ask you a couple questions about coaches. I mean, you had several of them, but in Detroit, going from Brian Murray to Scotty Bowman, how much of a shift was that?
So I love Scotty.
Yeah.
Scotty. The thing that I found separated him from everybody else was his attention to details.
Okay.
He was one day he was like overanalyzing the visitors bench. Yeah, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? He's like, well, the rule book says that their bench it only has to be so high, and our bench is lower. So he literally had them cut down the visitors' bench to sit lower, so it was harder on their legs, and raise ours, so it was easier on our legs. if you're sitting there for a long period of time, the lactic acid.
When you sit there for a while.
No, nothing about that. Yeah.
At least I got to stand up on it.
And then to try and go play a shift, like after sitting.
Yeah.
And that was a bad bench in the Joe. For the visitors, it was a bad bench.
And that's a Scotty Bowman bench.
That's
wow.
amazing.
We had another. This is the National Hockey League. He has us line up at the blue line, and take a puck around behind the net and flick it into the neutral zone. And we did that for 5-10 minutes. And we're like, what? The guys are laughing. He's like, you guys can't clear a puck. If you guys can't figure out how to clear a puck, we're never going to win it. We're never going to win a hockey game. It was just a detail thing,
right?
That was just it was, and then another one was he had a whistle and a duck horn. So whistle was to run the play, but if you heard the duck horn, you had to sprint to the bench to line change for the next group to come on. This is in practice, and if you didn't, he'd line us up and we'd be doing wind sprints. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? He's right. In a game, if you don't come hard to the bench, you're wasting time for the next guy to get on and get back in the play.
For sure.
There's a detail. There's millions of those examples of details that he was better than everybody else at. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's good. That's good intel.
Yeah.
You know, you hear stories, but it seems to be like those types of things that separate.
Yeah.
You know, say
Yeah.
great coaches from. I say average. I'm not saying that Brian Murray was average or anything,
Right.
but like
Just the difference.
just different type
Just
of
different,
yeah, exactly.
When you're in Detroit, there you get traded to Hartford, and I think I read or I either saw it maybe in an interview where you said it kind of saved. You felt like it kind of revamped your career a bit or saved your career. I think were your words actually.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like at 24 years old, I was ready to pack it in. I didn't love the game anymore. We grew up loving the game. You know, there's no pressure.
It's hard to hear that or understand it watching you play, though. You know what I mean? But I know that's in your head. I get what you're saying, but the way you played the game, you wouldn't think that.
Right. But it for lots of different reasons, it wears on guys differently, and there's the emotional toll, and so when I asked to leave Detroit, I actually had to go down and because the Ilitches, like I said, they were close. They're great people. Like we still exchange Christmas cards with their family. Like. Yes, just these super good human beings, and they wanted to understand why I wanted to leave, and so I had to go down and sit with Mr. Ilitch in his office down, and explain to him, and afterwards they granted the wish, and I went to Hartford, and guys are trying to get out of Hartford.
Yeah.
That was the year that Kelly Chase called it Shawshank.
Can you imagine?
Oh my God.
And I'm like I'm tickled to be there.
Yeah.
So right away gone from this not so great experience with the fan base to terrific experience from the fan base. It was the rejuvenation year of my career, even though we were only there for 6 months. I thought we were going to be there for 2 years, but they ended up moving the franchise after 1. But it allowed me to find the love of the game again, and want to continue to play.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you guys moved to Carolina, I'm from Greensboro. I know
wow.
That's where I'm from. But you guys lived in Raleigh, correct? And so how was that on a game day? Did you guys do morning skates in Greensboro?
So the first year and the second year were both different. So we lived in a little town called Cary, which is literally 2 exits over from where they were building the new rink.
Yep.
So in order for me to go to the practice rink, I had to go right by the new building every day. And for games, I had to go 70 miles the other way to Greensboro.
Yeah.
So the first year, we could practice in Raleigh, sleep at home, and then drive to Greensboro for the games. And after the first year, guys were like complaining, this is way too hard. So we would skate in Raleigh, then they would set up hotel, pregame meal and hotel in Greensboro for those that wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Which was 90% of the guys.
Right.
There's only a few guys that chose to still drive over that. But and that drive, it ended up becoming fairly easy. But when you think about how close you were to the other stadium, that was challenging. And then the other part was attendance.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
It was so for as many challenges as I dealt with in Detroit, the adversity of playing in Greensboro in front of nobody was its own challenges because they were like, this is the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Like,
I couldn't believe they. We all thought they were going to go to Charlotte.
Right.
And play.
Right.
That city was up and coming, and it's a decent.
Yeah, probably could actually even handle a NHL franchise if they'd have gone there.
They have NBA and NFL, NFL. But anyway, I just wondered how that worked.
And so I mean, I knew. So it was a Tuesday night game at home against Ottawa. Nobody's
red. A lot of red seats. A lot of people dressed up as red seats. Man.
It was less than 1,000 people.
Wow, that low?
I think it was like 900 people.
Oh no, in Greensboro there weren't red seats. My bad.
No, it was green.
Yeah, green. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
and and so that was its own set of challenges for all of us.
I can imagine.
How do you get up for a game with 900 people?
Oh my God, it's good to imagine.
Yeah, that'd be tough. Man.
Yeah,
that would be tough.
Yeah. You had Paul Maurice for 3 years?
I had
Hartford
Mo for 3 years. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on him? Seeing him continue to have success?
Yeah. So and he's had a terrific career and obviously a lot of longevity. When I started with Mo, he was still very young.
Yeah. And
he was finding his way. For better or worse, like he was so there was players that were older than him. We had guys that were older than him.
Right.
So before a game, he'd come hang out in the trainer's room and shoot the shit. Like he's one of the boys, and we had a pretty good group there, so it was okay. But it was just really different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm used to Scotty Bowman.
Yeah.
Like stepping on an elevator and not even saying hi.
Yeah.
To a guy here who's he's like
throwing it up with you. Guys.
Hanging out before a game.
What'd you do last night?
Yeah. But he, even in the 3 years I was with him, he really grew in his role, and he started to manage players really well. We had separate conversations about systems and different things, and he did a good job of kicking me back in line a few times. So yeah, I give Mo a lot of credit, and happy to see him win last year because that's a long time to be involved in the game, and to finally reach the pinnacle is pretty cool.
Yeah. You think of like what you mentioned, like around like meeting a coach when they're like younger in their career versus like later in their career, but like just like players need to develop, coaches do too, right? Like
100%.
Learning how to communicate, learning how to like I'll say press buttons, but like how guys tick.
I think that there's certainly learning curve, whether it's as a head coach at a lower level or an assistant coach at any level. Because I've seen it other experiences where coaches are just kind of thrust into a role that they're not necessarily ready for. They may think they are.
Yeah.
And they botch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. If you're not ready for those situations, they can get squeezed out pretty quickly, right? You just be able to manage emotion, and you're dealing with a lot of ego, right? I
was going to say, and the other part is the narcissistic side.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, how much are you willing to accept input, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't, if you're not comfortable in your own skin, you're not going to have success, because if you're going to dish it out, you got to be able to take it as well.
Yeah.
So
right.
But it seems like he's got, just from what I've observed, I've never met the guy, but he seems to be a pretty approachable guy. He seems to be open to
he was
ideas.
Always the one thing when I was with him, he was always approachable.
Yeah.
And again, that may have had to do with his age. I don't know where he's at now, but it seems like he's still approachable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a positive guy. He's always speaking very highly of everybody.
And I think that's another important thing in that role too, is if you have your issue with your players, you got to keep that, behind closed doors. Like, I never appreciated coaches who want to air their laundry in the media. Calling a player out, like there's no need. Like,
you can do that in your office.
Yeah, exactly.
You
can say, I need more from so and so, but to attack them, like,
yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yeah, it's gutless. It's unnecessary.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on Torts then?
Well, there's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I always wonder how I'd respond to coaches like that if I played for them. I played in that era, so I think I'd be fine. But, by the end of my career, if we weren't playing well, I was walking into Hitch's office and going, "You got to fucking light me up. You got to light me up in front of the guys, because if you go at me, and I'm your captain, they know they need a fire lit under their ass. We all got to go." Mm-hmm. So but like I said, early in my career, I couldn't deal with it. By the end of my career, I was begging for it. I was asking
because you were a loud guy in the locker room. Like like rah rah. I was in a bad way.
Like it was part of how it helped me get ready for games too. Right? It was like I start to ramp up. Because Eric Desjardins used to sit across from me, and Rico would look at me all the time, and it's almost like I felt like he was feeding off my energy, because he's a super quiet guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was getting stoked, because I'm like, I can see it. I can see it. He's getting it. And he would play, and he was always good.
Yeah,
he was always good.
So
I'm like,
good,
composed.
That was all me. That was all me.
Take credit for that. That's right.
Got the boys energized today.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I like when the room's like that.
Oh yeah.
Guys,
and you feel like you're in it.
Yeah, exactly. So you get traded to Philly. You were holding out. I know you had a back injury and stuff you were dealing with, and you basically wanted fair market value for what you were doing, which makes sense. I mean, nowadays it's like, I don't know if that was looked upon a bad way back then. I don't really remember.
It was. It was like I fought for it. Listen, I did well. I got no complaints about how the game treated me and what I left there with. But I chased the market for almost 10 years. And then I got to a point in my career where, I'm an established player here.
Yep.
And so two things happened in Carolina. Was one, the offer that Carolina made was nothing wrong with it. But it was market value for Carolina.
Right.
And I wanted market value for the league. And then the other thing was I was nursing a back injury that had happened the year before, and I'd had terrible playoff in Carolina. We lost out to Boston in the first round. And Jimmy Rutherford, who was a great man too, was really good. But they were questioning whether I actually had an injury, which was fine because I actually didn't go to them for diagnosis, or they couldn't diagnose us. So they were questioning whether there was actually really anything wrong. And you just making excuses for a bad playoff performance, which is fine. And that was lingering going into the next year. And so I really wanted to get my injury better before I started to play again. And so that fall, which is the fall of '99, I have four kids at home. My youngest, Cayden, was just born. And I left my wife in Carolina, and I was living at my parents' place in Toronto, getting treatment. So what I would do is I would fly out on a Sunday night, spend the whole next week, and the next week fly home on a Friday night, spend 48 hours at home, get back on a plane Sunday, go back to Toronto for another 2 weeks. And I did that for 3 straight months.
Oh, wow.
And nobody knows that, except the doctors that were treating me in Toronto. And I was using the Leafs therapists to rehab. And the contract negotiations were dragging out, and Peter Carmanos, who was the owner at the time, started ripping me in the newspaper, and that created a lot of friction with the fan base. That they've never understood that story, and never really forgiven me for that, and they made it okay. They got Roddy in the deal, but I guess I was doing that for 3 months, and then we got into it was Halloween. It was end of October, and I said, okay, we'll pack the kids up and we'll go to Disney. We'll take a few days and then we'll drive down to Disney. So I flew home. We went trick or treating Halloween night. The next morning, got up and drove the 15 hours to Disney. Worst thing I could have done with a bad back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't think of that.
So so next morning I wake up and we go down for breakfast, and my wife can tell there's something wrong, and she says, "What's going on?" I go, I got to go home. She goes, "What do you mean you got to go home?" I go, I gotta go. I need treatment. I'm not good. She goes, well, what am I supposed to do? I go, my mom's on a flight right now on her way down. She had no idea. And I booked my mom on a flight to come down and help her with the kids, and I was jumping on a plane. So the plane my mom came in on, I was going back out on.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and it broke my heart because my son Chase at the time he was probably 4 years old, and he's sitting on my mom's shoulder looking back at me, and it was it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done as a parent. Was leaving them there that day, and so that was so anyway. So another month goes by. And we're into December, and still doing the same trek. 2 weeks there, 2 days at home. And my wife drops me off at the airport, and she gets home because we're literally 2 exits down. And I call her. I go, "Come back and get me." She goes, "Don't mess around." And I go, "No, come get me." And I go, "I can't do this anymore." And so that was the end of that. And so I found a trainer in Raleigh and trained for like 3 more weeks, and then I got traded. So when I got to Philly, I was still banged up.
Yeah,
but I was playing.
I remember you coming over to the Phantoms rink over at Hollydale to practice with with him and Eric.
Yeah,
Eric was there too.
That's right. Eric was.
You guys both came over for a practice. I remember that.
Yeah.
Was it? This is a dumb question, but you leave two teams and they both win. That's tough to watch. I mean, I guess you're happy for the boys. Like, I don't mean to bring up a sore subject, but like it's you're probably happy for your buddies, but like at the same time you're like motherfucker. Man.
It could. Sorry.
I struck the chord. I'm sorry, Preems.
At the end of the day, for me personally, it couldn't have been worse.
Yeah.
Right. Like
I could see that.
Yeah. So. I mean, Detroit was good when I left. I knew, they were. I mean, we'd lost in the finals 2 years before that to New Jersey, and we'd lost to Colorado in the semifinals that year that I left. Colorado, and people were like, because that was the year we set the record for the most regular season wins. It was 62, and like, oh, what an upset! The Red Wings lose to Colorado. Are you fucking kidding me?
Did you see that team?
Oh
my God!
Patrick Waugh, Peter Forsberg, Joe Sakic, Valer Kamensky, Adam Foote.
Yeah.
It's not an upset. There's two really good teams. One team has to win. One team has to lose. The only saving grace for me that year was that I went to the World Championships because Hartford didn't make the playoffs. We went to the World Championships in '97, and we won the World Championships for Canada. And so that was a nice, Detroit's running through the Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm not even in the country. I'm in Europe, having a great time winning a World Championship. Carolina bothers me less because I left Carolina in 2000.
Yeah.
Came to Philadelphia. We had some good runs. We went to the semifinals against Tampa, lost in Game 7. Should have won the Cup that year. Mm-hmm. Then there's the lockout, and then Carolina has a great year, and they won in 2006. Like, it's 6 years removed. Like,
right.
There's only 2 or 3 guys on that team still that I played with.
Yeah. Like,
but yes, it was. Those are painful. Those are painful experiences. Thanks for rehashing
I'm
for
sorry.
me.
I
bubble them up.
I know, right? He was choking, had to get the water. I do want to bring up. That playoff run in 2004. It's unfortunate with the injuries on the back end that year, but you talk about someone putting a team on their back. Oh my God! And Phil Esposito said Philip Esposito said that's one of the greatest playoff performances he'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think everyone echoed that. I mean, everything you did, like you were doing everything, man. When you have 16 points, I think in 18 games, 9 goals, 7 assists, running everyone over, going to the fucking net. It was amazing to watch, man. And the city was going nuts, man. It was so cool. You scored a big goal, tie the game, I think, in Game 6, right?
Yeah.
And then we end up forcing a Game 7, and you just somehow are going to pull it out, and then maybe you get a couple guys back, but unfortunately losing to Tampa. But probably one of the most, I think one of the coolest things ever was that overtime. 5 overtimes, that goal, like. What a goal, man!
Yeah, and the first, Philadelphia fans, first thing that they talk about is the fifth overtime.
Yeah.
But for me, the greatest game, maybe not just playoff game, but maybe just greatest game because what was at stake.
Yeah.
Was the Game 6 Eastern Conference Finals in 2004. Because I was all over the sheet. I had 4 points on 5 goals or something, 2-2. And the building was just completely electric. I wish we could have played Game 7 at home.
I know.
Because I think it would have made a difference. But that was probably the best game I ever played in my life.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you just could not be stopped. What did Stu's call you? Can't stop him. You only hope to contain him. Yeah, you couldn't contain you either. That's for sure. It was so fucking impressive, man. I was thinking about I remember watching the game. I was with the Phantoms then, and you guys in Pittsburgh. I mean, that was a huge game because it's 3-1, if not, right? Like, it ties the series up. But, I was in a few, like, I think the longest one in the American League, I think was like we went 3 or 4, maybe in 4 overtimes. But what was it like in the room besides probably trying to eat anything you could find? But was there any comical time, like anything?
Yeah. So we had a pretty good group. We weren't as talented as Pittsburgh was, for sure. We were just we were lunch bucket, and we kind of were rallying around that. We had Chief, and we had Talk, and we had Bundy and Jonesy, and Luke Richardson and lunch pail. Really,
Yeah, right.
we're not, we had a few skill guys, but nothing like what Pittsburgh had on the other side. And so first overtime, it's nothing, no big deal. Right. You go into second overtime. You start eating the pizza that they'd order for the locker room that you would normally eat after the game's over. Then the pizza's gone. Then you go into the back then it was the power gels.
Oh yeah,
the power bars and power gels.
Sure,
those got devoured. By the time you're going to the fourth overtime, they're into the coach's popcorn. The coach's popcorn bag guys are devouring that. Guys are getting IVs. Eric Desjardins, who's like 3% body fat. Yeah. Was getting IVs between every period to try and he was an absolute warrior, and then it's still pretty loose, because the group of guys we had, it was just come on, like
somebody score.
So
no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a goal too! Talk about bar Dizow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so and again I felt pretty good because I missed most of the year. That was the year I got traded, and then I got hurt. I broke a rib when I got to Philly, so I missed another 6 weeks. So I only think I played 23 games that year. So I had pretty good energy. And if you remember the game back then, playoff hockey was clutch and grab, a lot of hooking and holding. And so as the game wore on, it was less and less of that. So ice started to open up more and more. And two other times I'd gone against Darius Kasparaitis down that right side. He's a left shot defenseman, and the exact same play. First one I'd gone around the net. Second one he cut me off at the net, and so in the overtime when I went to look like I was going to go wide, when he crossed over, I brought it back, and that's when I shot. It was only third time's the charm.
Yeah, I mean,
got his feet all tangled up there.
Playing, you basically played 2 games and just your mind still working is pretty impressive. The mental sides, like I never played pro, obviously, but like playing college basketball, I tell my son all the time, like the mental part, like when you get tired, you stop, you don't think right, but the fact that you could. You notice that, and that's pretty impressive. And what a shot! Old Tug Nut still looking for it.
Well, that's what generally happens when you're fatigued, right?
Yeah,
you make the mistake, or you're not.
It just took a long time for a mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a long ride.
That's wild.
Plane ride home. Eric Desjardins in the lavatory, dry heaving because he's got nothing in his system. And it's interesting because before the game, it was a Wednesday night, and TV controls game times now all the time, but back then it was pretty consistent. You played every other night in the playoffs. Early in my career, it was every other night. Like we'd stay in a hotel room and watch games the next night, and then go back and play. And then, so anyways, it was a Wednesday night, and we weren't playing till an afternoon game back in Philadelphia for Game 5, and we were all bitching and complaining, like just keep this thing moving. Like, why can't we go Friday and then Friday, Sunday? We were so happy that the game was Saturday, because by the time we got home, it was like 6 in the morning, Thursday morning. My parents were in town, took a drive down to Atlantic City, walked the boardwalk with them that day. It was a day off, and then good recovery day Friday, and ready to go Saturday afternoon. But we blew the doors off them in Game 5.
Yeah, you sure did, man.
Wow. When did you have your first concussion?
I couldn't tell you when I had my first concussion.
Okay, well,
my first documented concussion was in Hartford. Was December 1996, and we got it was in the neutral zone against the Rangers, and I got elbowed in the side of the head by Rudy Poschek.
Okay, right.
I remember Rudy.
Yeah, and so they took me to Hartford area hospital, and I spent the night in the hospital, and then they said, okay, one full week, nothing. You can't do it. You can't do anything. And I'm like, wow, that's because they hadn't done anything like that up to then. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Like they're taking my health serious, and only to get further into my own personal case history and realize it's like not a light switch. So a week later doesn't mean all of a sudden I'm better.
Yeah.
But I certainly appreciated the gesture at the time. But yeah, my first documented was 96, but it's not the whole story.
Yeah.
Second one was the playoffs in in 2000, the Pittsburgh series. So we came home, blew the doors off in Game 5, go back to Pittsburgh for Game 6.
So
and
pass behind you, I
me.
think.
Danny McGillis threw a puck behind me.
I remember that.
Then the News won a draw, went D to D. Gilly goes to throw me a pass, goes behind me. I turn this way, and Bob Bugner steps up.
Oh, right.
A little late.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It was late.
I mean, the puck's not on my stick. And Boogs called me after, like, I know Bobby. He apologized and stuff, and I mean, I appreciate that, but it was late. And I was, frozen. My arms are up in the air, and take me off the ice on a stretcher. I stayed in the Pittsburgh area hospital overnight. Mr. Snyder sends his plane for me. He flies me back the next day, and I go in to see the neurologist because I got to take my baseline. And if you remember, like, they do baseline every year, and it's again, it's a good test, and appreciate the again, early on in the education process. But impact baseline testing is pretty much a standardized test. Every year it's the same thing. So I know what's coming.
Right.
Yeah.
So I go in there like completely determined to pass my baseline, and I pass my baseline, and I sit with the neurologist, and she goes, "Keith, I can't personally tell you can't play, like, because you passed your baseline, but just be careful." And I laughed. I go, it's all good. I got this. I walk out of there, and I have the worst headache I've ever had in my life.
No shit. Hey.
For how hard I had to concentrate on doing that test.
Oh,
wow.
So that didn't stop me. So the next night we play Game 1 in the conference finals against New Jersey, and I proceed to get in a fight with Randy McKay. Everything was fine, but to me that was the beginning of the demise. That's the one I should have treated differently. I should have stayed out. I should have not played, and I should have rested, and I should have got my head better. Because the first concussion, although they kept me out for a week, was, a couple days. I was fine. The second one took me the summer to recover. Then the third one was Madison Square Garden against the Rangers. Same thing, neutral zone, elbow from Bobby Holik. And it was the same day that JR shattered his jaw.
Really? Was that same day? Wow.
Same game. And we just lost him, and I'm sitting on the bench going, "Oh fuck, we can't afford to lose JR."
Yeah,
I got hurt, and that one took 6 weeks to heal, and I came back again for the playoffs, and probably not 100%, but I feel well enough to play. Then we have the lockout, which was a good thing for me because it gives me an opportunity to heal. And then documented concussion 4 was in Montreal in October 2005, and puck comes off of the goalie's pad. I turn back up, and Perjogin comes flying in and hits me right on straight. There's only like 5 minutes left in the game. I go down, and I'm like waiting to see how I feel. I'm like, and I'm like, okay, I'm okay. And I get on the bus after, and I call my wife. I said, I'm good. Call my parents. I'm like, I'm good. Only 2 days later to be, trying to drive down to the rink for a afternoon game, and everything's spinning. I can't.
No shit.
Yeah.
That was 9 games that year, right? You only
9
played...
games in, yeah.
And that was it. You knew.
9 games in, and then for the whole year, I fought to get back. I was exercising, training, doing vestibular therapy, everything I could to get back. I didn't make it back. Go through the summer, come back ready for camp, and still not great. And I go into Jimmy McCrossan's office, and I'm like, yeah, a couple more weeks of camp, and I should be good. I'll be, and he lets me talk. I go on for about 5 minutes, and then when I'm done, he goes, Keith, I appreciate your effort, but he goes, as a medical professional, I can never give you permission to play again.
Wow, hey, that's what went down.
And that was the end. It was the end of my career, and people ask me, what was your first emotion? And my first emotion was relief.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you all the time, like getting work done, like with massage, all that Tommy, and just all the work you were doing. Like you said, you were working out, you would skate.
When I retired, when I did my press conference at the skate zone, I listed off, I think it was 21 or 23 different doctors, therapists, holistic, whatever. The Flyers, one thing I'll say is they afforded me the opportunity to go to whoever I wanted.
Yeah.
Varying degrees of success, but nothing that got me back to where I needed to be.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta appreciate the honesty there, right? Because I mean, but also like on your side, it's almost like you probably welcome to hear that.
I didn't want to hear it, but I needed somebody to say it.
Yeah,
because
right.
just the mentality is you just keep going,
keep going
until it's better, till it's right. And I would have kept going, and then eventually I probably would have put myself in harm's way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So he I have a tremendous amount of respect for Jimmy for that.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one for sure. Knowing how much you poured into it, not just in your in that time with the Flyers and coming back, but just in your career, just have it go down like that.
Yeah, because the one thing, we go all the way back to the beginning with the draft was I was like, I'm the guy who's going to play the longest. I'm the guy who's going to play more than anybody else. And here's Yager.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Still going.
Yeah, still going strong. Yeah.
I've been done for 20 years.
Yeah. Still kicking. Oh, yeah.
The guy just keeps kicking me while I'm down.
God.
Yeah, right.
Preems, when he was here in 2012, he was 40, I think.
I thought he was done then. I'm like, this is like.
He had a pretty good year while he played with Hartnell and Giroux, and that was Hartsy's best year.
Yeah, it was,
by far his best year. But it was so funny because he's 40 years old. He was at the rink twice a day. He would come at night and work out. It was insane. Yeah. And
he's just married to the game.
He would come walking like out of the sauna or something. He had a towel on, and he's just jacked, right? And he's like going, "Oh, you 20-year-olds, what a 40-year-old man looks like," just kind of busting the guy's balls. But I remember we played in New Jersey. In the afternoon, it was a weird time, and then we flew to Boston because we played the next day, which was a Sunday. And me and Bricks and the guys that were helping us hang the gear at the garden there, we come back to the hotel, and Yogs is going for a run.
Yeah.
It's like 1 a.m. And I'm like, where the fuck are you going, dude? He's got his toque on, his weight. I had to carry his weight vest everywhere. So he's like, bring the weight vest on the plane, and he'd go for a run after he just played a game. It was nuts, man.
And I always said there was something about the elite players that separated them from everybody else. Like, there's good players and there's great players, and then there's elite players, and they just have this next level stamina that is just, you can't describe it. Like Peter Forsberg, when he was with us here, he'd miss with his feet, he'd miss like a month or 6 weeks or something. And he came back, and we were doing a one-on-one in practice or something. He fucking abused me. Yeah. He hadn't done anything for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm like that's just super. It's not natural.
Yeah,
right.
It's
super natural. Yep. And so a guy like Yogs, who is a physical specimen, and then did all that extra. Like he was already above everybody else, and now he's doing all this extra. Yeah. Chris Chelios was the same way. Right. I'd go train out in California with TR Goodman. If you remember TR.
Chief went there the one time.
Yeah, and he trained a lot of guys back, and Rick Tockett's the guy who introduced me to him. And Chelly wouldn't show up. He wouldn't be there all summer. We're there every day, and he'd come in and we'd do the circuit. He'd destroy us all. The best conditioned guy who hadn't done anything for 2 months. Well, we were in the gym 4 hours a day bagging ourselves. Yeah. It's a supernatural ability that only few people have. It's uncanny.
Yeah, you've seen a few of those guys. Yeah, it's wild when you mix like raw talent with like that next level effort. And then I guess marry those two. But you said there's something even more deeper than that, the life force.
It's a supernatural specimen because often what happens is when somebody has that kind of skill or talent, they don't have to put the extra effort in.
Yeah.
But when they do, it's powerful, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the X factor, I guess. Right. Take them to the next level.
We went down. We go down sometimes when visiting teams are in the morning for the morning skate and grab a couple like fun sound bites. Not like, oh, what do you think about the game tonight? But we're down there talking to Sid a few weeks ago, and he was the first guy on the ice. Shooting pucks, working with a couple of younger guys that had been called up, and it's like that. Like you said, they do all this extra. There's a reason why he's still putting a point a game up. Yeah. How many years in a row now with the goal? Like it's insane, man.
40,
Yeah, it's crazy. I wanted to talk real quick about like you basically raised your family here. For the most part, and couple years. Well, I don't know if your oldest son, did he play hockey?
Yeah, he did.
He did?
He played here locally, and long story with Corey, but he ended up playing club hockey at Newman.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Okay, I have a couple kids that I worked with the junior team, the Null here, the Rebels. The last 2 years I worked with them, and a couple of kids are playing there. That's awesome. But I wanted to say, with Cayden, did you coach him?
I did.
You did coach him.
Yeah.
And my son's a goalie.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's ever going to play in NHL at all. But he's playing AAA, plays PHC, and he loves it, which is the last thing I wanted him to do, Preems, was play fucking goalie.
I'm with you, man. I feel your pain.
So basically what I was going to ask you is that anxiety. I'm glad he doesn't feel it. He doesn't. If he does, he doesn't show it. You've seen him play. Mm-hmm. Like he's loosey goosey. He's a bit of a nut. I don't know where he gets it from.
Skips generation.
Yeah. But anyway, what I was gonna say was like, was that or is it still like because he's obviously he's playing the highest level.
So it's interesting because when I coached him, people would ask me like, "Are you nervous when he's going?" I'm like, no, like he's a goalie and. But I guess in my own crazy kind of way, I felt like I had some control over the situation when I was coaching.
Yeah.
So, or maybe I was just so invested in the game that I didn't have time to worry about him or what he was doing. As soon as I changed sides of the ice from the bench to the spectator side to the parent side, I was a basket case.
Yeah.
I was it's unbelievable. I still get nervous when he plays, and he like. There's no reason to be like.
Yeah.
You can't control it, right?
Yeah, that's what my wife says. She's like, you can't. There's nothing you can do. Like your nerves or your energy or whatever is not going to have any impact on you. But it's just that nervous energy, and he knows that. He laughs. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand.
Affect him.
Not at all. He doesn't understand why we get nervous at all.
Yeah.
And he's played in a lot of big games.
Yeah.
So
World Championship, he was gold medal and a silver medal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and he was the guy in the World Juniors.
Yeah.
They lost to Finland, 3-2 on a late goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's had success at every level, except really the National Hockey League level. I'd like to see him get some runway to get an opportunity to have some consistency and consistent starts. But at the end of the day, the game doesn't owe you anything. Like,
right.
Nobody says it has to be fair. So
yeah, right.
He's on fire right now. I know he's in the American League, right?
Yeah,
in
he's
Laval.
Yeah, and again, it's just like he's comfortable. But he's comfortable, and he's when he's in his good state of mind and he's dialed, he's good. And he was the same way last year in Montreal. Like people forget that he played 23 games last year. He was 2 off of hitting like the minimum number. Minimum number meaning for like qualified goalies for stats.
Right.
If he'd played 2 more, he'd been qualified, and he even at 23 games he was like 10 in the top 15 in goals in save percentage.
Right.
Like 9-10 on a
wow.
So anyways, it's been a little bit frustrating for me, watching that scenario, but also know that the game doesn't know you anything, and you got to create your opportunity.
Right. Yeah, I remember when Elvis, he filled in for a game because he was a mite. I don't even know if it was considered mite. He was 6, and he liked it, and I'm like, no, you didn't like it, buddy. He's like, it was actually fun, and I'm like, no, and so I go upstairs, I go to work or whatever, and Hexy was the GM, Ron Hexel was the GM at the time, and he's like, Deke, take him home tonight and fire up outdoor hockey ball right off his fucking melon, right off his head, and this will be done. I said, Hexy's 6, man. Yeah. I can't do that. He goes, you can. Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah, do it.
I'm like, I don't think he's going to play goalie. I'm not really that worried about it. And then here we are. He's to Pee Wee this year. He'll be 11 this summer. So
it only gets worse, buddy.
Oh, man. Thanks. I guess you owe me one for bringing up the cups. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I just wondered how you handled that. And do you have any itch to work in hockey?
No.
You don't.
I don't. There was a period of time where I did, because I my ego's not that big where I have to have the success. Like
Right.
I didn't win a Stanley Cup. But my life is no different.
Right.
Like I'm fulfilled. Like my family is my priority. So,
Right.
And I love my freedom too much.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I see these guys that I play with, and they're running around the country and they're scouting, and it's a 12 month of the year job.
yeah.
I got no interest in it. I don't need to. I'm in a good spot financially. I'm in a good spot personally. So I don't need to feed my ego to the point where I need to go find work playing. Right. And then when I finished coaching the boys, and they went off to the USHL, they both left the same year, Chase and Cayden.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
I'd coached them both for about 10 years. And I took the year off intentionally, one, to chase them around, follow them, and two, to see if I was actually that passionate about it, and if it was something I wanted to do. And I didn't miss it.
No way, sure.
I'd done it because my boys were playing. So
yeah.
How was it on you when they left at that age? Was that tough?
It was really tough. So the first year they went away, I had a really hard time, and they were in Lincoln together, in Lincoln, Nebraska, in the USHL. We actually rented an apartment out there.
Oh.
And my wife and I were there a lot.
Okay.
But it was still hard for me, because I'd gone from basically driving to school in the morning, go home, do 3 or 4 hours of work, go back, pick them up, drive them an hour, because by then we'd left and we were going to Warwick. We were playing for the Philadelphia Revolution.
Oh, okay.
Driving an hour for practice, then practicing, then driving, the hour and a half home. I was with my boys all day long.
Yeah.
And now I wasn't with them.
Yeah.
And that really hit me. And then my wife actually struggled the second year, because that first year we'd kind of, like I said, we'd had an apartment, and so she was used to just only making them dinner. But the second year was the year when we didn't have the apartment, and they were both doing their own thing, that she struggled. So it's a change. It really is.
I was upset. I'm not saying I don't know how long Elvis will do this. He loves it, but I was upset this year when he told me not to dye skates anymore. Like, shit. Like, dude, come on, man. Yeah. I go in. It's funny. I tell you this real quick, Preems. You might get a kick out of it. So, he's 10 years old, and I set his gear up like I would set yours up, I fold the bag, and all the dads make fun of me because his bag's fine. All his shit's there, and that's just, I can't not do it, right? I'm the dad in there when they go out, right, for warm-ups. You only get 5 minutes. I'm like, some of the bags I'll put underneath. I start itching, man, when the bags are all in the middle of the floor. You can't walk. I can't take it. And they all the dads laugh at me. I'm like, I'm going to give you guys a lesson this summer in folding their bags up. Yeah. But anyway, we're playing in a tournament a few weeks ago, and like I said, Elvis is only 10, and he's taking warm-ups, and he looks over, and he's like, points me, come over to the bench, and I'm like, fuck, something's not right. And I sharpened his blades. Like, you can change them now, so he has like 4 pairs. So he doesn't go on the ice with that. He's spoiled rotten. But anyway, I'm like, maybe something's wrong with the skate. I don't know. So I get over there, and he pulls his mask up, and he takes his glove off, and he hands it to me. He goes, "Feel my glove."
Soaking wet.
Well, yeah, but I'm like, I put my glove in, my hand in it, and I'm like, what? And he goes, "It's wet." And I said, you fucking kidding me right now? I mean, you called me over to tell me your glove's wet? He goes, "Why is it so wet?" I'm like, "Because you played 2 hours ago and we didn't have time." Like, I'm like, just put the glove on and play, man. I was like, you kidding me right now? I'm done hanging your gear, buddy. I know, right? I couldn't believe he said that. Oh, man. But anyway, I mean, Riles was with me during the playoffs. You saw the one game. It was a must-win.
Nervous Nelly.
I was, because it was a team. We played the Avalanche out of North Jersey, and they had not lost a league game. And we lost the first game that morning, and we had to win, or we could go. We wouldn't make it to the finals, and they hadn't been beaten. We did. We won 2-1, but I was a mess, and he's like, "Dude, you need to take some."
Yeah,
I was just more intense. I wasn't like, but I had to.
Yeah, okay, just call it intensity. Yeah. It was that anxiety that James was talking about earlier.
We're driving over. We stayed in a hotel, even though we were just in Westchester, because it was crazy schedule for Squirts. Like, we played at 7 a.m. and then not till 2, so I got a hotel the night before, and then so he could maybe take a nap, like in between the games, because the kids will run around the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
That's all they'll do.
Yeah,
They'll wear themselves out. I'm
You
like,
can't
dude,
figure out why they're tired.
right? Yeah. I'm like, dude, you're gonna lay in the bed. You're not gonna be on your phone. So he actually took a nap, and so I'm like, I can't. I'm like so nervous for him, and because he's still young, and I just don't want him to lose and feel like it's his fault, or whatever. Anyway, we get to the rink, and I put his stuff up, and I walk out, and I'm like, you ready to go? And he's like, yep. And I said, you nervous? He goes, no, I'm going to win. And I'm like, okay. And I walk out, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm glad he feels that way. Yeah, I'm glad he feels that way. But anyway, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit, being a goalie dad.
Doesn't get easier, but
No,
sure.
no, I know,
doesn't
right?
get easier.
Pressure keeps getting stronger.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, Preems, we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Been a good
awesome,
one.
man.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, he's coming in the studio.
The stew. He walked in, he goes, what am I doing?
Yeah.
It's a garage. Oh, we shouldn't tell everybody that. No, everybody knows. I'm kidding. But we appreciate you, brother, for coming, and definitely an honor to have you on here, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I want to thank Keith Primeau, the big man, for joining us today. And Baller, let's jump into Captain's Corner with Mike Richards. All right, welcome back to the Captain's Corner. We got our main man, the Captain, Mike Richards. What's up, Richie?
What's up, boys? How's it going?
Doing all right. How's Florida treating you right now?
Yeah, she's getting toasty. It's hot here.
Yeah.
It's getting toasty
It's
up here.
hot.
I'm sure it's getting toasty there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
90s like daily. It's
Ooh.
getting to be home time here soon.
Yeah,
You're
right.
not ready to go home. Thanks for joining us, brother, for the Captain's Corner. So last week, it's been about a week, maybe a little longer, but John Tortorella, the Flyers played in Toronto, and post game there was some fireworks with Cam York. The whole story hasn't really come out yet, but I guess it got pretty ugly through verbally. But anyway, he said to the media that he wasn't very interested in coaching a team that was going through this, basically paraphrasing, at this type of season.
Yeah.
Were you surprised after seeing those comments that he was fired?
I was surprised by the timing of it. Like 9 games left. It's, I guess if you're going to do it, might as well do it kind of now and let the players breathe, I guess, for the next, couple weeks of the season, and maybe try to set the tone for next year. Personally, I didn't like the comments. I thought they're pretty arrogant, to be honest, of basically separating himself from the team. Like, I'm not going to, or what was it? I don't want to learn to coach in this, basically saying like, I've coached for so many years and I've never done this, so it's on them, not on me, type of thing. So, I didn't like them. But so after hearing the comments, surprised at the timing of the firing, but not really surprised that after those comments and separating, and then hearing the story of there might have been some verbal altercation, you can call it, with some of the players. I just think it's a bad look for anybody, but especially a head coach in that situation when you're rebuilding, trying to get a team in a situation where they really don't have a lot to play for, and still trying to, I guess, grow as players and as teams and probably set the tone for next year. And then to come out with comments like that, I thought that was just a tough look. So I guess surprised at the timing if those comments and what happened didn't happen. But once you hear kind of what went on behind the scenes, I guess it wasn't overly surprising after that.
Yeah.
Hard to survive comment like that.
Yeah.
It's like career suicide in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly. And a lot of people seem to think that he just had enough and was basically got himself fired by those comments. But
which is fine. But at the same time, it's like any team you're ever on preaches accountability. And, I'm guessing John was no different with the Flyers, especially like seeing the team from a distance of like how he wanted them to play, how he wanted to block shots, how he wanted this, that, and the other thing. And then to come out and say that and kind of separate yourself from the team of saying that you don't want to learn to coach in a situation like that, basically insinuating that he had nothing to do with how bad the season's been, isn't really like hopping in with the players for accountability. So it's just a bad look.
Yeah, it is.
I agree.
Hey, I know when something like that happens, it's necessary. You have to make the move, right? You
Yeah,
can't wait
I
9
think
games
so.
and right to the end of the season.
No.
You have to make an honest, I guess, just a splash. You have to let it be known that can't be.
You wouldn't want a player saying
unacceptable.
that,
Yeah,
right?
no players
You
can say
wouldn't want
that.
a
Show up at
player.
the
I don't feel
podium and
like
say
playing in a situation
Yeah.
like this. Well, they'd be gone. I mean,
totally.
So
Yeah.
it was
And
big
players are
news.
smart. Like players are really smart. Like they see everything, they hear everything, and when you have a coach doing that, then all of a sudden that trickles to their play on the ice, and now the snowball effect of everybody just basically mailing in 9 games, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, whatever's left in the season. But instead of like building expectation for next year or summer or how you're going to train, now you're just counting the days down till basically everybody separates and leaves and goes their separate way without any like continuity of coming back next year to try to be better. So
Yeah.
Danny probably was kind of handcuffed there a little bit and probably had to do something.
Yeah,
Sure.
for sure.
What are your thoughts are on replacement for the coach? You think you're going to stick with Bradshaw as interim for these next couple of years? Is some bit of a buffer into this rebuild, or are they going to bring in a young coach or a veteran coach? What are your thoughts on that?
So I don't know much about Brad. Like at some point, I think this team has to kind of turn over and start kind of heading in the upward trajectory. So I think they need some stability, a guy that is, maybe not similar to John in the sense of like teaching and getting better that way, but probably like what you usually see is like if somebody's like a hard ass, they'll go to the complete opposite side and go to a more player friendly coach. For the Flyers, I still think they need somebody that's going to be like tougher on them, but still give them the freedom to play and kind of get to the next level, because it's been a few years and these things can take time, unfortunately, but at the same time, like you don't want it to seem like these young players are just coming into the season every year expecting to lose. So I thought they did a good job last year, basically until the end of the season, of being in that playoff hunt, and then kind of fell off at the end, where this year has been a complete write-off. And like as a young player, it's tough to have these years where you're fighting it every single night and you're losing and it's discouraging, and I think that affects your growth as a player more, because it zaps the energy from you. Like you're just
Totally.
You're not excited to get to the rink. You're not excited to work. Even in the summer, it's just like, it's tough to find that motivation of what you're playing for, except for like selfish reasons, like, money, contracts, that sort of thing. Like you want to have that energy coming into the season of expectations and hope. And when you don't have that, I think it's, like I said, players are smart. They see it and they know what to expect the following year. And if you don't have at least somewhat expectations to get better, it's going to be tough for those young players to keep getting better. And also it's going to be tough to sign players in the summer too, because nobody's going to want to come in and, lose whatever, 45, 50 games.
Yeah.
And, so I think they need a coach that kind of like Barry Trotz, John Stevens, guys that will, teach you, but also kind of give you the freedom to make plays and play hard and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, there's a few names out there that we've talked about. You've probably heard.
David Carl.
Yeah, David Carl. I mean, Lappy,
still
Rick
going.
Tocchet. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what direction they go with it, and also who wants to take on that and assume that role, right? I mean, knowing that the next 2 years is gonna be pretty rough, but for a young guy, it's an opportunity to coach, and for an older guy, again, depending on where they're at in their careers, it might be an interesting little project for them.
Yeah. I don't know much about those guys. Lappy, I don't know how he is as a coach, but like playing with him, he's a very detail-oriented guy. So you could see him doing well as a coach just because he's always had that in him, whether it was a player. He's always good with, when I was there with him, like he would teach you different things and show you what you needed to do or hold you to it. Give you some accountability, but at the same time, he's got that lightheartedness that he understands that hockey needs to be fun and you need to enjoy being at the rink. And when you have that kind of married to each other, I think teams just tend to have more success.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed with that.
Wanted to ask you real quick, and we'll let you run. I'm sure you got golf or the horses going today, but or maybe the beach, or it's probably too hot, like you said. But the Caps have 7 games left. Ovi's 3 away, man. You think he gets it this year?
Yeah, I think he does. I didn't think so probably 2 weeks ago, and then it seems like every night he keeps scoring. And like even watching their games, like they're obviously looking for him, and he's got such a good shot that like he doesn't need much time to get it off. And it just seems like everything's going in right now. And when he gets hot, like he can put him up in a hurry. And when I played with him the 1 year, forget how many away from 50 he was with like 5 or 6 games left. And at the last game of the year, he was at 47. And I think we were in St. Louis and he scored 3 in that game to get to 50.
Wow.
So like the puck, when he is like motivated and like, putting everything into scoring and everybody starts kind of looking for him to score. Yeah. Like each game he's going to have like 8-10 shot attempts, and, to get 3, they have a really good team too. So there's a good chance that they'll be winning. So he might get a little cookie at the empty netter one game or something like that. So I think he will. I think it's incredible. Like
it is.
The goaltenders that he's played against in an era where like scoring was tough early on, and then 50 year after year after year. It's remarkable. It really is. Like I don't even think it's being hyped up enough at how incredible it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think Wayne, the great one's going to have to start coming to the last 7, because he could get 3, like you just said. They were saying it on TV, like he could get 3 easily in a game. Obviously, especially they're looking for him on empty net anytime, and you can't blame him. So
and the power play, like he'll get 2 for sure, like 2 power play goals for sure in 7 games.
Yeah,
like you think 7 games, that's what, 14 to 21 power plays minimum. You'll get that one timer up at least twice, and then you get 1 more kind of. So I would bet that he would do it.
Yeah, me too, man.
And it sure seems like the team and the city and the NHL is just like rallying around it. It's not a distraction at all. It's almost like seems like it's encouraging.
And it was great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was great the other night. Carolina, obviously they got pounded pretty good. It was actually a pretty physical game at the end, which I was shocked just because Carolina doesn't have a whole lot, but everyone stood up for each other. But anyway, my point was he scored. Really, I don't want to say a meaningless goal, made it 4-1, but like standing ovation in Carolina. Like, you have to. You have to, like, at this point. Like,
and it's good for the league. Like, it's must watch. Like, I see the games on, whether it's TV or the app or whatever, and like you're just flipping back and forth because you just know, like, he's that good that he can just, you get 2 in the first in his next game, and next thing you know, like he's so good at scoring, and he's just got such a knack for the net that I think, you're in the dog days right now. You have 7 games left, but I think it's probably energized that team even more to put them in a better position to going into the playoffs. So
right,
they're in a good situation. It'll be fun to watch, and great for
Yeah.
the league. Like the league should capitalize on this because it's that big. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, even like to start my career, like you always, like Gretzky's records are always unbeatable, and then like this guy could score 1,000 goals by the time. Like he might,
I know.
you know what I mean? And he had a lockout in 04,
yeah,
right? Like I think he got drafted before that. He had a half a lockout in 12 or 13. So like he realistically could be at 1,000 now. And it's just like I wouldn't put it past him to play at least 1-2 more years the way he's scoring right now. He doesn't need much room. Like he could approach 1,000 goals, which is
it's insane.
Man.
Yeah. And he loves it. And he just loves it. Like a child out there. Just like loves it.
He sellies hard on if anyone scores though. He obviously sellies when he scores, but I love how excited he is for you to score. The other guys. It's awesome.
So cool.
And that's how he is as a teammate too. Like he just loves like playing. He always gets to the rink, happy. He's bouncing around. He just like has that love for the game, and it just like it shows on the ice. It shows how much it means when his teammates score or his teammates do something, or even the other night, getting the team back out for Marc-Andre.
Classy.
To shake his hand. Like he just loves kind of everything about the game, and it's pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah, and you got to play with him. That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
You're one of the main reasons, bro.
Yeah.
That's basically.
Let's call it.
I mean, since I played with him, he kind of skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Boost him up a little bit.
Richie, we appreciate you.
I heard a stat before you move on. I heard a stat too that I don't know if it's in reach, but he's definitely closing in on leading the league in hits too.
Wow.
Oh, I did.
Like he's got, which is just like even more insane.
It's insane.
It's
hard to believe.
Because like remember him like when we first started in the league, like he would run around and hit everybody and hard. So to lead the league or going to be an all-time record goal scorer and be right up there with hits too. It's insane. It's awesome. Yeah,
it is, man. Oh man, but thank you, buddy, for joining us for the Captain's Corner. You are the man.
No worries. They had a Preems for me. It was my first roommate.
Oh, okay. You'll be here any minute now. Keep that AC on down there, big boy.
Yeah. Good seeing you, boys.
Good seeing you, man.
All right, brother.
Miss you guys.
Thanks.
Miss you, brother.
Man.
Take care.